What is up? It is another episode of the Hoof Podcast live on the Cover One Network. And it's not just two of us, it's three of us.
The party.
It's a party. And we have none other than Bruce Nolan from Buffalo Rumblings over here. What's going on, Bruce?
I feel like there should be a Just the Three of Us song. And if there isn't, I could write it real fast just for the three of us. We could do it. We can make it happen. We could make it if we try, guys.
Yeah.
Just the three of us.
We could. Maybe not with Will Smith anymore. I don't know. If people want to cancel him, whatever, I don't care. But actually, there is a fourth. There's a fourth, Migo. Eric is in the back. He's producing the show, as you guys know. But we're here, man. It's another freaking week, and it's another week that we're closer to the NFL draft. So, with that being said, each and every week as we get closer, I lose sleep as we get close to the draft, and I actually start having dreams about who the Bills are going to pick, who's going to be the selection. Oh yeah, dude, it's like clockwork, man. I can't help myself. It gets really bad, and I don't know, call me crazy or I don't know, dude. It's just nuts. It's just nuts right now. So we're in April. I can say that. So anyways, Anthony, how are you doing today, man?
I'm excited. I'm excited for tonight. I did some research. I was telling you guys before the show started that last year was really the first year I evaluated players in depth for the draft and kind of did every position breakdown, and we did our Making a Case series. And that was awesome for me. I mean, I'm not a tape guy, as we'll discuss, right? I'm not an X's and O's guy. I'm not a break down the film kind of guy, but I know enough about football that if I turn on tape of a guy and start watching his highlights and say, okay, what is this guy good at? And put together the scouting reports from the people who know what they're talking about, I can come to my own conclusion putting that data together. And that's really the fun part of it all for me. So I was excited putting it together and thinking, Sterling's going to know this about this guy, and I might have a different opinion. And we're having Bruce on the show, who's an awesome guest, who will know his stuff always. And, with him, it's always disco balls and dancers, party time, right? So it's always going to be a good time. I'm so excited to dig into it today.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. And as we get, as we do this thing, just so everybody who's watching or listening or will be listening tomorrow, whatever you do, there is a mock draft, and you and Bruce I'm putting you on. I'm putting you guys in the hot seat for this draft. We're gonna have music and all. You know how we do it around here. So let's do some shout outs, man. Bill Bassner's in here, and he says, I would like to hear your thoughts on this. I see two possibilities. Bean thinks we need a top cornerback, in which case we draft Booth or Elam at 25. And can we get some good wide receiver, linebacker talent pre-100 spots? So we're going to talk about that. And Bill, thank you for watching the show, my man. We got Pops Mafia in here, round one corner, round two linebacker, round three Calvin Austin, the offensive line, then the best available punt or punt returner. We need a punter. I agree. We do need a punter. I don't know about taking a guy around fourth round. I mean, I think you can get some I'm just not that sold on it. I mean, the punt guide is out there. There's a few punters that I like, but I'm down with round 6 or 7 you could take a punter, but I'm not with this whole to me, round 4 is kind of a premium pick. I'm not trying to take a punter that early, but thank you for watching the show. And then we got Vince in here. He says, I love this group. Can't wait to listen to this tomorrow. Charles says, what's up? And there's many more you guys in here as you guys are piling in here. Be sure to give a shout out, man. I will definitely, if you have something that's noteworthy to say, I'm definitely, you guys know how I do, man. I'm going to get up and get in there. So with that being said, Bruce, are you ready to do this, man?
I was born ready.
Bruce, you're always ready. Yeah. All right. So the gist of tonight, we're going to talk about cornerback and linebacker. Okay. And we couldn't do that. It's kind of fitting that I lumped these two topics, these two positions together, because there are some things that are kind of brewing around rumor wise, and maybe some potential trade buzz. We're going to get into that, but first, I would like to throw out that the Saints and Eagles shake up round 1. Now, there was a trade yesterday, and I swear it took me, I was like, how do you even make this make sense? Like, there's you got the Eagles talking to the Saints and pairing picks together. And basically what I get from it is the Eagles they have to be looking either at taking a quarterback early next year. And then you got the Saints here who have 2 first-round picks now. I believe it's 16 and 19, if I'm not mistaken. I do have it here. I'm going to pull it up.
16 and 18, I think.
16 and 18.
That's what they traded up from?
Yeah, so the Eagles receive pick 18 and pick a 3rd-round pick and a 7th-round pick next year, a 1st-round pick and a 2024 2nd-round pick. So the Eagles, they had a ton of picks this year. They're just kicking the can, and they're going to have a ton of picks next year. And getting a 2024 2nd-round pick is huge. So the Saints received pick 16, pick 19, and 194, which is the 6th round. So I don't know if the Saints are thinking Malik Willis, if they're thinking, Kenny Pickett. A quarterback has to be in play. I mean, when you got Jameis Winston I would look at him as a stopgap starter. So real quick, I don't know if you guys saw that. What do you guys think of the trade? Bruce, will start with you. Anthony, will finish with you on the topic.
I think the first thing to take away from this is that the Eagles have evaluated this quarterback class and have found it wanting. That's the way that I look at this. The Eagles looked at this quarterback class and said, you know what? Pass. I don't think I really need to invest in someone right now when I have Jalen Hurts. Now, I don't think Jalen Hurts is the guy, but I would like to remain open to being able to go acquire the guy at a year when I really like the prospects. And I don't know if that's going to be next year, but it's not going to be this year. And that's the way that the Eagles seem to be looking at this trade. With the Saints, they either already have something in place to potentially move up if their guy is on the board and it might be a quarterback, or they're like, you know what? We're a hashtag team never rebuild. That's where we're at right here. Never rebuilding. And so for the Saints, it might not even be a quarterback. It might be listen, we have a couple glaring areas of need. If you think about it, the Saints just lost Thayer Mumford. And this is a really good offensive tackle class. There's a chance that you have Ikem Ekwonu, Charles Cross. You have all these people all going in the top 12. And when you look at some of these mocks, some of the times it's 5, 6, 7 players that are edge rushers or offensive tackles going high. And so it could just be the Saints really like the class that is not quarterbacks. That is areas where they would like to be able to make a little bit of noise. So I don't necessarily know if the Saints are requiring it to be a quarterback, but I can pretty much guarantee that the Eagles are doing it because they don't like the quarterback class.
Yeah, I mean, and the Eagles, can you say they can afford to not draft a quarterback this year? If you're not sold, if you don't think your guy is there's no need to waste capital to do so. They got Jalen Hurts. I think it's worth seeing Jalen Hurts one more year. I mean, we could kind of look at his game and say, just from the film I watched on him, I don't think he's franchised, but I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I just think he's average, right? And I think you need to, for the quarterback position, you got to shoot higher than that. So, you go, no stone goes unturned until we find that guy. And the Eagles haven't had that guy in a while. I mean, you could look at Carson Wentz for a hot minute, but outside of that, they've really been struggling since Donovan McNabb was their quarterback. Michael Vick was just a stopgap guy. So, I think they're looking at it the right way. It's kind of reminiscent of what the Bills did in the pursuit of Josh Allen. So kudos for the Eagles. Now the Saints, they got needs, man. They have a lot of holes on this roster.
Yeah.
And I just don't know. I don't think anybody knows which direction they're going in right now. Anthony, what are your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, I was going to say that exact thing, that I'm more confused about this from the standpoint of the Saints than the Eagles. To me, this is the Eagles saying, well, we know what we are right now, just as Bruce was describing, and thinking to themselves, okay, we can get more picks next year, and this sounds good. Even when I saw the numbers, I'm like, okay, this makes sense for the Eagles, but why would the Saints do this, right? Like, what are they going for? Now you have no first-round pick next year, no second-round pick. What's going on in your head? You might suck this year. Your team might be in last place in that division this year. Well, the Falcons, I guess, but your team might be under 500 legitimately this year. And that is, you're in this kind of unknown state right now. Clearly, the Saints are having an identity crisis. They don't know who they are yet. To me, at least that's what this says. Like, okay, me as an outsider, I'm looking at you as a team that, yeah, you could go 500. You could maybe make fringe playoffs if things all go the right way. But right now, you're not who you think you are, right? And if they're trading up to get these 2 picks, they're saying there's guys that we can add right now that put us in contention for a Super Bowl. And we're willing to give up our first-round pick next year because we're that confident that somebody we get, or 2 guys in this case we get, are going to put us over the edge. And I don't see how that happens with this team in particular. What 2 positions could they add that can put them over the edge? Unless you're bringing in a franchise quarterback on day one, because that's one of their biggest questions at this point. I'm bigger on Winston than most people, but I don't know. And the rumor was like, oh, they're getting those picks so that now they have the ammo to trade up to the top 5 or trade up to get somebody else. And again, I'm thinking, okay, but you just mortgage the farm, a first-round pick, second-round pick next year, all the other picks that were involved, and you're going to trade 2 picks up to get 1 guy when you could have gotten like 3 or 4 that could potentially help your team. I'm not sure what the Saints are doing, but I'm interested to see how it plays out, because at this point, we won't know until draft night, apparently.
So according to sources, this is what was told ESPN's Matt Miller. Says the Saints know any quarterback they like won't be there at pick 18. Okay, so if as Bills fans, we need every quarterback that you can think of to go in round 1 to push talent down the board. But the Saints, they kind of have an idea. So, the current depth chart for the Saints right now at quarterback is Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston, and Ian Book are your quarterbacks. And so Jameis is a stopgap guy. Andy Dalton, we've seen enough. He's a Bills Mafia favorite, the drought killer. But, it's one of those things to keep in mind. I mean, as we've seen throughout the years, we just never know what's going to happen with the draft and these draft picks. So, which brings up our next topic tonight, fellas. According to a report by ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, the Bills are interested in Stefan Gilmore. Now, Bills fans, we are very familiar with the old Stefan Gilmore. I believe he was the 11th overall pick in the draft, 2013? Or something like that. It feels like a long time ago. But Stefan Gilmore coming back to the Bills. I mean, maybe they're a wild card team. I don't know their interest, but it seems that the Bills are in the go big or go home approach, and that's you guys will probably know this, but that's the land that I live in. Okay. You never get anywhere without risk, and you got to take risk. And if you see an opportunity, you got to seize it. Now, I know Anthony is more of the, you have to build it slowly and for sustained success,
keep
right?
It going. I want to be good for a long time. Yes.
I know Eric, our producer, is of that school of thought. Bruce, where are you? Are you a no risk it, no biscuit, or are you let's just build this thing slow kind of thing? And what are your thoughts on Gilmore?
I am a be as good as you can for as long as you can and hope you get lucky guy. I recognize the intrinsic variances that occur in football. And because of that, hold on real quick. Furrow, is that Fairlife that you're drinking right now?
Okay, so yes, this is
that's how good I am. I am so good that he literally just took a swig of this thing and I said, that's Fairlife.
Let me tell you something.
It's our new sponsor.
Fairlife is not sponsored. They're not sponsoring the hoof yet, but let me tell you, you see how milk chocolate and this dark skin is very resemblance of this Fairlife and what's in this bottle. And let me tell you, not just its protein, but it tastes really good. Like I am lactose intolerant as hell. And if I eat drink milk, eat cheese, all that, it destroys me. But this stuff right here, it's like you're getting the chocolate milk and you're getting the goodness. So yeah, if you haven't found this in Costco, which Buffalo, you guys are getting to Costco soon, You get you some Fairlife, man. It's delicious. I will be drinking Fairlife in that. Until the draft, I'll go back to my wine drinking ways on the show. But I'm taking it easy. So I'm I appreciate you guys, but I'm just going with the water tonight and the Fairlife, man.
Well, I appreciate that. But anyway, I sorry, I had a little squirrel issue there. But what's going on with Stefan Gilmore? Squirrel? But I am be as good as you can for as long as you can and hope you get lucky guy. So I recognize that the best team in the NFL frequently is the team who wins the Super Bowl. Like frequently. In fact, I would argue far more often than not, the best team in the league does not win the Super Bowl. So because of that, I would be much more emphatically in favor of being a very good team for 10 years as opposed to being the best team in the league for 2 years. Because I fully recognize that being the best team in the league not only doesn't guarantee you a Super Bowl, I'm not even entirely sure it really increases your chances all that much versus the second best team, because so much of luck and variance is involved in football. So for me, the way that Stefan Gilmore plays into this is I don't think Stefan Gilmore is that big of a swing. I don't think Stefan Gilmore is that big of a swing. You know why? Because I think if he was, he would have already signed a $18 to $20 million contract for 1 or 2 years with a contender. That would have been what he already did. The fact that he's still sticking around in the market, I would be shocked if his paycheck came in and even made me blink when it was done. Because think about what the Panthers got for him. Think about what they gave for him. The Panthers gave up a day 3 pick for Stefan Gilmore. I just don't think the value is there anymore. He's 32 years old, right? And he came off a couple injuries. He's been banged up. And I don't think Stefan Gilmore is a big swing. I am in favor of it because I think not only is Stefan Gilmore not a big swing, at this point, he qualifies as, yep, that's what my reaction is to Stefan Gilmore.
Okay, yep. Hold on. So let me throw a little something out there. Let me tell you why I think it is a big swing, because it'd be one thing if this was Stefan Gilmore on the New Orleans Saints, or Stefan Gilmore on the Dolphins or the Jets, where not the Dolphins, because they have 2 really good corners, but the Jets, they need cornerbacks. But like you put Stefan Gilmore with the already loaded cupboard, I think it enhances his ability because you don't have to rely on him as much. You already have a Tre'Davious White on the other side that's going to be getting healthy. So yes, the name definitely gives you a little bit of like oomph, but I think it is a go big or go home kind of scenario, just because what I've seen on tape of him, he still has elite traits. Now, it's not as refined as it once was early in his career, but he's a guy that you could depend on and can kind of take away one side of the field, right? And so with that being said, you got Tre'Davious White healthy. Let's say you got the healthy Stefan Gilmore, and it opens up a bevy of things that you could do from a coverage standpoint, right? So, we saw a big shift in their scheme in terms of when Dane Jackson went in, when Tre'Davious White went out. They weren't, Dane Jackson's not going to lock down one side of the field, right? But I think, you could do a lot of things in there. It's going to free up your safeties to do some things. I just think it'd be a home run hit if they were to bring in a Stefan Gilmore. Anthony, what are your thoughts on that, man?
My initial thoughts are Stefan Gilmore has 2 arms, 2 legs, and plays the cornerback position. Therefore, the Buffalo Bills are showing interest. Like, this is not rocket science at this point. If you have 2 arms, 2 legs, and you play the cornerback position, the Bills are interested in signing you right now because we need cornerback depth, and everybody knows it. Stefan Gilmore happens to fit in a couple of different ways. You explained very nicely what he could potentially be, which I think, Bruce did too, where he's not signing, multi-year, multi-big contract deal that's going to, offset the salary cap or something at this point. The interest clearly isn't at that level for him. Now he's probably got many people who are like, oh, we'll pay you veteran minimum, to come in and see what you can do. Obviously, now the lure for the Bills is we're a Super Bowl contending team. You've played here before. You can come back and win a championship with us. This isn't the same Bills as when you left. And we want the best version of Stefan Gilmore on this team. You can be the veteran. You might start at the beginning of the season, at least for sure, because we don't know about the injury to Trey White if you're healthy. And that's another big thing. In Buffalo, we know the facilities, the training room, the way we do things in Buffalo, players tend to be healthy and be the best versions of themselves. That might be a draw for a Stefan Gilmore. But there's no doubt, as we're all going to talk about in the show today, that cornerback is probably the biggest need on this team, hands down at this point, with everything that's been done in free agency up to this point. And a veteran like Stefan Gilmore would be a great get in my mind for the right price.
So here's, according to Spot Rack, his value, now take this for what you want, but it is 2 years, $28 million for Spot Rack. That's what, 14 mil a year? That's a hefty amount. So maybe it's a negotiating thing with his agent. Maybe Stefan is really looking for a Super Bowl, another Super Bowl, and he's kind of evaluating his options. You know, we just never know the back end of this stuff. But I think it's interesting, and it kind of leads into what we're going to be talking about tonight in terms of linebacker, cornerback. And so the next one, I'm going to let you take this one first. But the whole idea of Tremaine Edmunds trade value. Now, I am not here saying this is a very controversial topic in Bills Mafia. And for one, I give a rat's ass what anybody else thinks. Okay. We're all human and we can all have our opinions on what we think should happen or what can happen. But I've learned, being a Bills fan, we should never sit in the seat of never. Never happens. Sometimes I'm not saying we trade the guy, but I also do know, just from a number standpoint, that the Bills did go out and they went and got a Von Miller, which no one really thought that they would do. Now there's a certain GM now, gain from the Giants, who said the Bills have money to play with. So the Bills spent some of that money, and they could still make some things happen, but you can't re-sign everybody. So Bruce, my man. The rumors, it was out from a tweet. I don't remember the source, but they were saying that the Bills could move a player or two to maybe try to get up in the draft. Okay. Tremaine Edmunds was not mentioned, but if you look at the roster, you're thinking Tremaine Edmunds, you're thinking AJ Epinesa, some of the guys like that. What are your thoughts on the possibility of the Bills could be moving Tremaine Edmunds, or what's his trade value? Good idea or not?
As always, the most boring take is probably most accurate, and that is it depends. I will say this. One of the most important things to evaluate in dealing with other teams around the league is, how do I value this player versus how do they value this player? If there is a significant gap in a positive direction between the way that you value the player and the way that another team values a player, then that's a good thing. That's surplus trade value for you. In addition, you have to consider the possibility of signing two off-ball linebackers to significant contracts, which is historically not necessarily always a great idea. A lot of people have equated off-ball linebackers to being running backs of the defense due to the dependency of the position. When we were talking about the possibility of drafting a significant one tech, when the Jordan Davis conversation was at its apex before free agency, one of the things that was discussed along those lines is, well, maybe this could help unlock Tremaine Edmunds a little bit more if you didn't have to do this. Mm-hmm. Well, then the natural extension of that is, if you have a player who needs to be unlocked, do you want to devote a ton of resources to that position? This has nothing to do with Tremaine Edmunds. This is just about off-ball linebacker. That's all I'm talking about. Off-ball linebacker. And then you go, well, Sean McDermott runs a historically linebacker-centric defense. If you look at the great defenses that he had in Carolina, they were focused around off-ball linebackers. And I would argue, no, they weren't. They were focused around defensive tackles that allowed the off-ball linebackers to do the things that they needed to do. The significant draft resources that were put into the Carolina Panthers defense were up front. This is the Star Lotulelei, KK Short. This is what that entire defense was built around, right up the middle. They were at a point where they had already invested significant resources in Lotulelei and Kwan Short, and they went gotten Vernon Butler again. They drafted Vernon Butler. What are you going to do with him? He's not even going to start. And people are like, no, we believe in it. Everyone uses the phrase linebacker-centric defense, and it was a linebacker-centric defense. But why was it a linebacker-centric defense? Because you had defensive tackles who were freeing up Luke Kuechly, and Davis and other linebackers to be able to do the things that they needed to do. So if you have a position that is so dependent on the line in front of them to be able to unlock things, do you really want to devote $10 million a year to Matt Milano and 12, 13, $14 million a year to Tremaine Edmonds? Is that a wise allocation of resources? And if you think to yourself, I'm probably not going to do that, and then you find yourself in a scenario where someone else values him more than you do, sure, why not? I look into it. I have historically said the following about Tremaine Edmonds, and it's the most boring take in the world. He's fine. He's fine. Everyone wants me to say he's trash or he's elite. We cannot live in a world where I'm just like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm completely satisfied with Tremaine Edmonds. He's fine. So for me, if somebody else in the league thinks that Tremaine Edmonds is more than just fine, and I have these other aspects, I think about it. Absolutely, I think about it. So that's where I stand on the possibility and philosophy of trading Tremaine Edmonds.
I'm almost on the exact same page as that. Because the first show in the offseason that Cover One did was a offseason spectacular where we talked about the Bills' current roster. And the biggest thing that I said on that show was the biggest question for the Buffalo Bills this offseason, the biggest question they have to ask themselves is, how do they value, what is the value of Tremaine Edmonds? You know, because teams will be calling. And the point is to build on what Bruce said. You could be in love with Tremaine Edmonds. You could want to pay Tremaine Edmonds and keep him for the next 5 years, but still accept the fact that you're going to face cap issues in the next few years, and you have to make tough decisions where even guys you want to keep are going to have to walk. So now, even though you want him, that could be one reason to possibly entertain letting him go. On top of that, if you answer the question, well, we're not letting him go for anything less than a first-round pick and a veteran player to replace him. Well, what if a team calls you with that exact offer? We'll give you our first-round pick, and we'll give you whatever veteran we currently have that's filling the role that we want for Tremaine Edmonds. And will the Bills say yes to that? Well, it's going to be tempting. I personally do not want to move on from Tremaine Edmonds because of his important role in the defense and the fact that he does it well, you know, being the one calling the plays, setting everything up.
Right.
He does that well enough that I don't want to move on from him. I would feel more uncomfortable with an uncertainty, either a veteran being brought in who hasn't played in Sean McDermott's defense or a rookie being drafted replacing a guy who we know did that job well. There is improvements that can be made on the field with Tremaine Edmonds. We all know that. That's why he's not a sure thing slam dunk, you know, guy for the next 5 years that you can't let go. So while it's upgradable, I still would be more comfortable with what I know than what I don't at this point. And yeah, that's the thing. What is the value? And it really is a puzzling question. Maybe they're like, no, you'd have to give us 2 firsts and a player or something. That'd be insane to me. I don't think anybody's going to offer that for Tremaine Edmonds. Maybe it's as much as a second round and a current player if that current player has a certain value. Sure, sounds good and is a good contract to absorb, right? I take that if that's the direction they're willing to go and they're thinking about this year and next. And the last point I'll make is every player they do that for, except Josh Allen, every player has a value. Josh Allen, you couldn't offer us the world. You're not getting him. Your next picks for the next 10 years, no, is the answer straight up. Anybody else, even, you know, Trey White, who do you want, right? Whoever you want to throw out there, there is a value that we would say the Bills would accept and say, yes, we'll take that offer. Here you go. You have him and we'll take everything else you're giving us, right? And Tremaine Edmonds is no exception to that. So what that is, that's a bigger debate, what that value is. The Bills have made that decision by now, and they're just waiting for the right phone call to say, okay, like Bruce said, they value him more than we do. We got to pull the trigger and make that deal.
Yeah, I mean, there's outside of Josh Allen, there's no player on the roster that is safe other than Josh Allen. And so, you know, for me to sit here and say it's never a possibility, that's not true. You know, we don't know. Things change, and I know that the Bills or the Panthers did pay some good money to their 2-star linebackers, Kuechly and Davis, right? And they even used another first-round asset to take another guy, Shaq Thompson, right? So, you know, for me to sit here and us to go, well, it's not happening, it's not possible. I mean, I love Tremaine Edmonds. I mean, I think he's a good linebacker. Could you do better? Yeah, you could do better, right? You could. I mean, you'd have to hit on the pick, but again, the Bills did pay premium assets to go get the guy, and I love that the fact that he's here. I mean, he's a 4-year starter with over 100 tackles each season. He 94% snap percentage on defense last year, so he was reliable and healthy, and when he plays, he's effective. So, but I also realize that Josh Allen contract is going to kick in any moment now, and the Bills are gonna, you can only kick the can on so many contracts before you have to go, shit, we can't pay everybody. We're gonna have to make some deals. So if somebody wants to, there's that value that you guys are talking about, comes up with an offer that they can't refuse, then I think you kind of have to listen. So with that being said, we're going to put that one to bed, but it's just something to be mindful of, something to think about, keep in your mind, because if something were to happen, let's not be shocked here, right? I don't want us to be shocked. So, the fans that, look, here we go. Richard Greenwood, Edmonds, two Pro Bowls, what it's worth. Absolutely. And he's deserving of those Pro Bowls. So, with that being said, let's keep it moving, shall we? So Eric is going to get our mock draft machine going here in a little bit. But what I wanted to do, are you guys in agreement that cornerback is Bruce, I know your team coverage, right? So cornerback is a big need. And I feel that way. Anthony feels that way. So let's real quick. If you had we know that like Sauce Gardner is not going to be available to the Bills at 25. Neither is Derek Stingley. But if you had a dream scenario where you could get your guy, that's not Sauce or Stingley, who would that cornerback be in round 1? Bruce, we'll start with you.
Mm-hmm. It's Andrew Booth. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely Andrew Booth. And I think that there's an argument that could have been made that Andrew Booth was CB1 in this class. Ooh. And I think that the injury is going to cause him to slide, and it's going to slide maybe just enough to make Booth decide that, maybe I'll start slipping a little bit. And if he were to get into the late teens, early 20s, I would start to get nervous a little bit because, if you watched him last year, you decided, okay, I'm going to get a start on this class. I'm going to take some time this summer. I'm going to get started on the cornerback class. You'd walk away going, holy mother of Troy, Andrew Booth. And he didn't have the down year that Stingley did, but every single thing you want, you got. Every single thing you want, you got. You just wish you had the cherry on top. And that's what Booth doesn't give you because he hasn't been able to test and he hasn't been healthy. So there's little bit of polishing that you need on your draft stock. You talk a lot about how players can improve their draft stock. Cross T's, dot I's, check boxes. Andrew Booth does not get an opportunity to check boxes this offseason. And that makes teams uncomfortable because they're about to devote a first-round pick, which is a really significant asset that comes with multiple aspects of opportunity cost. And they're like, I want someone who checks all the boxes, not some of them. And they overthink things. This happens all the time. We overthink things. Andrew Booth could end up being there at 19, 20 because NFL teams are dumb and they overthink things. They totally do. We've seen it a million times. Christian Ponder was a first-round pick. Blake Bortles got picked number 3 overall. Teams, here's what I know. Teams will reach on quarterbacks and they will overthink things. I know these things to be true. Why? Because they're always true. It's like What About Bob? If you ever seen the movie What About Bob? Richard Dreyfuss is at the cabin and his family is very concerned about his patient Bob and says, well, Bob, I just don't want him to be gone. And he opens the door and behind the screen door, there is Bob, Bill Murray. And he goes, gone? Gone? He's never gone. He opens the door and there he is. He's just a persistent presence. And that's what a persistent presence looks like in the NFL. Teams will reach on for quarterbacks and they will overthink things. And there's a chance they overthink Andrew Booth. And that's my dream scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, people put so much, focus on speed, right? And, Richard Sherman always talks about, you can get cooked with a 4.3 or a 4.5, 4.6, 4.7 as a cornerback. I mean, you're going to get cooked sometimes. And, one of the things I love about Andrew Booth is his length as a cornerback. I'm a big fan of tall cornerbacks with length because I think some of the length makes up for speed, the closing distance and so forth. I mean, all cornerbacks doesn't have to be 5'10" and run a 4.3, right? There are corners that can be just as effective, but they may not have a blazing 40 time. We've seen guys, make big plays, impact players on defense because they don't have the best 40 time and they fall down the board because people fall in love with the Olympics in shorts, right? Which is called the NFL Combine. But I agree, Bruce. I think, Andrew Booth is a solid corner. Man, he could turn his hips. He's rangy. He's physical. And he's one of those guys that, you can see McDermott is he wants guys, cornerbacks that are willing to tackle. Andrew Booth gives you that. He will lay a lick. So Anthony, who do you have your mind on?
Well, you guys stole the thunder for sure with this first round. I'll say this to start as a preface again of how I like to prep for the draft, right? Nobody knows the right big board order for the NFL, right? It's impossible to know that. But what I like to do is use multiple different mock draft simulators that are available online and see in those different scenarios, okay, I'll run through 5 with this one, 5 with that one, 5 with that one. Who's still on the board? How did this work out? Which players are in what order on this one versus that one? And which players do I really like? And in the first round, for me, it's only those 3. And Booth is really the guy that I think is the one that will be there for the Bills. And I think of my 5, 5, and 5, there was maybe 2 where Booth was available. And in both, I took him, right? Because I echo some of the same thoughts that you guys said. You watch his highlights and you see that this is a dynamic player, right? His length shows up, his tackling ability, everything the Bills would want too in a player, I feel. So that's why I think Booth has to be that guy in round 1. And after this, I have seen also in a lot of these mock drafts that I've done, lots of cornerbacks going in the first round. We could talk about the next few on the board, at least by the Draft Network here, McDuffie, Elam, Gordon. Could those guys go? I don't know. The next guy that I would probably like on this list is Woolen, and he's a little further down than the other guys, so I'm not picking him in round 1. And we've talked about on our show before the potential of the Bills get there. There's not a pick they like at 25, so they end up trading down to then get the guy they want, where you can pick whatever cornerback you want, Woolen or whatever second round guy, if it's a second round pick, presumably, or you could even trade down again and then trade back up, obviously. Work the magic, right? I love all these articles too about the Bills are crazy. They're going to trade up. There's a lot of speculation the Bills are going to trade up. I'm like, yes, that's one of the options. Very good. The Bills are definitely pursuing trading up. They're also pursuing trading down. They're also pursuing staying put at 25 to make the pick. They have to have all those scenarios ready. I don't think they'll trade up much. Maybe they'll trade. Maybe they're like, okay, Booth is still on the board. 3 picks ahead, we're going to trade up and try and get him here because he's really the guy we want at this position. I don't see that happening, though. I think even if he was, they'd be like, okay, maybe he falls to us at 25, we take him. And then if he's gone, then the best case scenario, if cornerback is what you want, would be to trade down. So Booth is the only guy at that position that I would take.
Okay, so I think a cornerback with some first round potential to take a look at. I mean, we talk about Sauce Gardner, right? You're going to have to trade up for him. Derek Stingley's going to be gone. Andrew Booth, I think, he's going to be gone. But maybe a guy like Trent McDuffie. I think McDuffie's game is, I love what he's able to do. According to PFF, here's his profile here. He's 5'11". I mean, I think, he's a physical specimen. This guy, I mean, he's incredible, right? He's a little on the smaller side, but so is Tre'Davious White. Okay. But he has instincts. I think he'd be a great selection, worthy of 25. I'm not saying that we trade up and go get him, but when you do some of these mocks and simulators and so forth, it gives us an idea, but it doesn't give us what's actually going to happen because we really don't know. We don't know who's going to be available. That there's chatter that Derek Stingley could fall. I mean, he could fall to 20, right? Because he really hasn't done anything since his freshman year. So we're basing him being quarter CB1 or CB2 based off of 2019, based on what he's. But he, 20 year in 2020 was a COVID year. I don't know the motivation. LSU coming off that championship, and last year it's like he really didn't put a whole lot of good things on tape. So that's all based on projection and what he could be, right? So it's something to take a look at before we do the mock, though. Let's just say the Bills are in the market for a linebacker late round 1. Maybe let's say this is hypothetical. We're dreaming. Or let's say they decide they want to move on from Tremaine Edmonds, right? Who do you guys think are worthy options at linebacker
in round 1?
And this is probably not going to happen, but we're going to go through every scenario here because that's what we said we're going to do. Who are we looking at? Anthony, we'll start with you. Bruce, you'll go next.
Excellent. I'm glad I got to go first because I think there's 2 guys that are mocked in a lot of drafts to go in the first round at linebacker. That's Devin Lloyd and Nicolby Dean. And I did do my homework on these guys, and I have to tell you that Nicolby Dean is one of my favorite guys I've seen in this process like this, where I knew of the player, knew that he was touted, but hadn't really watched a lot with my own eyes until I started doing research for this. And when you put on his highlights and you watch him play, he has everything I want in a football player. His pursuit, the way he tackles, the way he goes after the ball. He can, rush the quarterback. He can stop the run. He can, do it all. Coverage. I think he would be the pick for the Bills at 25. First of all, I think Lloyd will be gone by then. But Dean is and I know the criticism of him is he doesn't have the size and whatever. This is where somebody like me would say, I don't need his measurements. I use my eyes and see this guy is a damn good football player that I think can help my team right here, right now, and do all of the things that I want, right? I think this is an example of a guy who could be an upgrade over Tremaine Edmonds in terms of how he plays. And I should also mention that one of the things I do as part of my research is because I've watched of the most football over the years, obviously I watch the Bills. So I know Tremaine Edmonds. I know Matt Milano. I know those guys very, very well. So I watched their tape of their highlights in college and use that as, okay, I know where they thought this guy would be. Milano being a later round guy, Edmonds being a highly touted first rounder. Nicolby Dean's tape far outweighs, in my mind, what Edmonds put out, and Edmonds was a first round talent. So Dean would be, for me, the guy that I would want at linebacker if we were picking in the first round. And obviously, as we said, I think that only happens if they decide to move on from Tremaine Edmonds. But Dean is my guy here. I really love him.
Yeah, people knock Dean, maybe he's not the fastest, but I mean, what he's able to offer you as far as instincts, I mean, the guy, he's a leader too, man.
Mm-hmm.
He is a menace. Yep. Like, you guys know I'm a Michigan fan, and watching him,
that's his best film. That was his best.
Incredible, man. He was incredible. So
because you also got to, you can't just watch his competition during the year because you don't know, maybe he's playing inferior opponents, racking up the big plays or whatever. No, he did this against the top opponents, the best teams he played. He was flashing at his best. And that's what you want to see out of an NFL prospect, right? And that he can compete with the best of them and still look like the player he's projected to be. I'm telling you, I really like him.
Bruce, take the floor, my man. What you got?
Okay, so everything that he just said, all that, right? Plus this point. Nicolby Dean is the anti-Tremaine Edmonds. When you pick Tremaine Edmonds, you are picking him because he had all the traits, all of them. He was tall, he was long, he was big, he was well built, he ran like the wind. All of those things were true. Nicolby Dean ran a 4.66. He's short, he's not long, and he's not very heavy. But as Anthony said, you watch him play and you go, that's a football player. Yeah. That is not an athlete. That's a football player. That's someone who triggers downhill. He led his team in tackles for loss. He takes on the fullback in the hole with absolute tenacity. and he's got the quickness necessary to be able to beat blockers to their spots. So it is absolutely the opposite. If you look at Tremaine Edmonds and go, gosh, I just wish he would trigger more. I wish the trigger was there more with Tremaine Edmonds. You're going to have the exact opposite feeling watching Nicolby Dean. If you watch Nicolby Dean and go, oh, I just wish you were a little faster. I wish you were a little bigger. I wish you were a little longer. Then go watch Tremaine Edmonds, because that's what you got. It is exactly the opposite. And I will tell you this, if this hypothetical world that we're living in right now, where the Bills trade away Tremaine Edmonds and then they pick Nicolby Dean, I think that is a tremendous statement by picking someone who is essentially the polar opposite. It is basically going from Rex Ryan to Sean McDermott, right? It is the pendulum swinging the other direction, but on a prospect instead of a coach.
Yeah.
And I love that. But you know what? Here's something to think about too. You know, Nicolby Dean, I know he excels in stopping the run. I mean, you have a jack of all trades and Matt Milano. Matt Milano can do a lot. And so, I mean, the Bills, we know that they employ a lot of nickel defense. I think, you know, it'd be nice to have a guy that of Nicolby Dean that could just go and just sniff out the run. And you know what? One of the things that people that sometimes we overlook, I think instincts mask speed. There's play speed. Play speed is important, right? So Nicolby Dean's instincts are through the roof. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons why, okay, you may see a 4.6 40, which whatever, but like you guys were saying, when you put on the tape, he does not look like he runs a 4.6 40 because he's so instinctual. Like he sniffs out everything so quickly. I mean, this Georgia defense was one of the best in college football ever. And he is the architect of that defense, getting people lined up and so forth. So his football acumen is through the roof, man. So I love Nicolby Dean's game. I love Tremaine Edmonds as well. We'll see what happens on that. So, now that we kind of got that little part out of the way,
I do want to say the one thing I hate about Nicolby Dean, in most of the mocks I do, he's going to the Patriots a few picks ahead of us, and that is like, I hate it because now I love Nicolby Dean.
That feels like a weird fit to me. It feels like a weird fit.
I don't know why.
I've seen Nicolby Dean to the Patriots a bunch of times, and I go, that doesn't fit their archetype at linebacker at all.
I don't know, but that's what the mocks are showing. We don't know what the reality of the situation is, but
right. Okay, so are you guys ready to do this draft? Yes. Bruce, you're ready?
I was born ready.
You were born ready
to go.
Were you feeling dangerous?
I rolled out of bed. Don't say feeling dangerous. You'll get Anthony to go off on a huge rant about Baker Mayfield.
I know. I was trying to trigger him. Okay. All right, producer Eric, I'm going to need you to cue it up, baby. And we can't do a mock draft without the mock draft music. Okay, fellas, here we go. So I am the card carrier, okay? I'm Brandon Bean, but I'm taking a seat back, and I'm going to let you guys kind of figure out what we're doing for the draft. So, Eric, I'm going to have you go ahead and start this thing. I'm going to let Bruce and Anthony here, based on the board. Let's see what you guys come up with. For those of you who are watching the show, or those of you at home listening, be sure to give your take on who the Bills should pick based on what's on the board currently. So we're going to do a 7-round mock. All right. And we're not going to do all the teams.
Yeah, just the Bills.
We just want to do the Bills here.
There we go.
And we're going to kick this thing off right. So we're going to start the draft. We're not going to take any trades, Bruce. Okay, we don't do any trades here. It's too early for that right here on the Hoof Podcast. So we're seeing
Sauce Gardner to the Texans.
Sauce went third in this mock. Okay. Garrett Wilson's off the board. Derek Stingley goes 12th. All right.
Later than we
Jordan Davis is such a Ravens
There's
pick.
Booth 18. I think we had that in the
18.
comments, right?
And the phone ring, is this the Chiefs? We hang up on them. We don't want it. We don't want it. All right, so let's look at the board here. All right.
Wow.
So right now we have Tyler Linderbaum as according to TDN's mock draft board, their big board. We got Tyler Linderbaum as the best prospect on the board, but for the Bills, Bruce, Anthony, you guys take the floor. What are you guys thinking in the chat? Let me know. Who should we pick here?
I'll say that We've done two in the past 2 weeks. The 2 picks we had, we did have Olave, I think 3 weeks ago. Olave was our first round pick. Last week we changed it up a bit. We told ourselves we weren't going to just pick the same guys. We went with Linderbaum actually in this spot last week just to kind of play out the scenario. We were talking about offensive linemen. Bruce, I don't know if you were aware of that, but obviously those are 2 guys we've talked about. I would pick Olave if he was there over Linderbaum, but I also see a couple of other names that I'm sure Bruce is going to bring up here.
Yeah, I think that when you think about wide receivers, you're going to go Olave or Burks here. Kair Elam is going to be a popular pick. I am not as high on Kair Elam as a lot of people. I feel like for a person of his length, I would really love if he tackled a little bit better. And so I don't think that he'll be a target for the Bills because of the tackling stuff. I think that there's something to be said for traits when it comes to Kair Elam. But I just found myself consistently underwhelmed about his ability to tackle. And that is something that's important to Sean McDermott. It's important to me when it comes to players like this. I think if you wanted to take a swing on a player who rightfully should not be here, you would look at David Ojabo. Now, I understand that you said, okay, hey, Bruce, I'm going to get mad at you because what good is that pick going to do us right now? And the answer is sometimes you shoot for value. David Ojabo has absolutely no reason to be here. The only reason he's here is because he's hurt. So sometimes you have to buy low on players, and we have to make sure that if you have David Ojabo brought along slowly, I don't know if you really can count on AJ Epinesa taking the next step as a defensive lineman. Gregory Rousseau was completely fine last year, but Gregory Rousseau and David Ojabo could not possibly have more different skill sets, and Von Miller's 32. So I think that there's something to be considered there. For me personally, I take Olave. I take Olave because, number one, I think he's one of the better route runners in this draft. I think his ability to separate in the short area is absolutely beneficial. And one of the comps for Chris Olave is Emmanuel Sanders. So I absolutely know that skill set is valued by this regime. So for me, it's Chris Olave.
I like that. 2 guys that happen to be on the board here. Well, 3, I guess.
Hold on, Anthony. I got to stop you here. Now, y'all know Ojabo is my guy. He has to get more refined in terms of stopping the run. But I think when you put on the tape and you see this guy jump off the screen from a pass rush perspective, man, it really does that could be your guy for the next 5 years until you have to pay him big money, right? So I love that idea. But I just want to throw that about Ojabo because he's a Michigan guy, so they're my people. Yeah. But Anthony, go ahead.
Coming off the injury too, and we already talked about how the Bills' facilities tend to help people come back from injury as well. The other 2 names that I was going to bring up here, Kenyon Green, who we haven't discussed, at least on our show, as an interior offensive lineman option, potentially could be a swing guard, play both guard, potentially compete to be a starting guard. And on this team, we know guard depth would mean a lot. So I would feel comfortable with discussing a guy like him in this position. And then the ones we just talked about, linebacker position, of course, Devin Lloyd still on the board here, and Nicolby Dean further down the list, but still on the board as well. Both viable options at this pick, is depending on what happens with, moving forward with Tremaine Edmonds. I'm comfortable with Olave. The only reason I was trying to move away is because we've picked him before, but I like Olave as a fit for the Bills, and I like the wide receiver position, picking it now in the first round, even though we know that I have some later guys I'd like to consider at the position too.
So Bruce, are you guys pulling the plug on Chris Olave?
It's Chris Olave. Lock it in. Final answer.
All right. Eric, go ahead and pull the trigger. It's Chris Olave at pick number 25 for the Buffalo Bills.
I honestly, in my own mock drafts, I don't know how Olave is still there for the Bills. I think some team is going to want him and pull the trigger more.
It's the Texans. We don't want it. All right, so we're going to our second round pick, and we're seeing some of our favorites: Devin Lloyd, Ojabo, Linderbaum,
Woolen went there, to the
Tariq
Jets.
Woolen, Tyler Smith, interior offensive lineman, is gone. Okay, so we have our wide receiver. So Josh Allen has a full cupboard right now in terms of wide receiver talent. We still have a need at cornerback. Okay, so man, our phone's blowing up. All right, Bills at 57. I am
unplugging the phone.
Yeah,
Bruce is unplugging the phone. We're at pick 57, and there's some running backs there. Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker is there. Now, I think your value for linebacker comes into play. I think Christian Harris is one of my favorite linebackers in the draft, Alabama guy. But we have our wide receiver. So, Eric, why don't you pull up, see who's left at corner on this board here? All right, so we got Darion Kendrick and Mario Goodrich. I like Mario Goodrich and Alontae Taylor. You know, Cam Taylor-Britt. I don't think Cam Taylor-Britt is going to be a third-round guy. I think he's going to get taken early second round. I just think, you know, his athleticism pops. I think he's an essential corner. But this is you guys. I'm just taking the card up. So you guys hash this one out. What are you going to do here?
If we go back to all, I think there's a, you know, it's big position here on the board. There's a few guys I like. First of all, I think you're talking to Bruce and I. Neither one of us are big fans of running back in the first round. I still am looking at the talent on this board, and I cannot justify picking a running back. That's me personally, even though I know guys like Walker, Spiller, and Hall are all still on the board, all still viable, you know, running backs that would be considered at this position in the draft. The linebacker I actually like is Chad Mumma in this position. He's one of my favorite linebackers in this area of the draft. I think especially as a fit for the Bills in terms of, you know, again, he's a leader guy. He's got the character, his play on the field. Mumma is the linebacker I would look at here. And the other names to consider, you know, that are if you go to the cornerbacks again, that was where I was kind of like, okay, would I wait on a guy like Cam Taylor-Britt? You're saying you think he goes later in the second here. That's going to put us in a position where, do we want to wait much longer to start getting the biggest position of need, at least as we see it on this team? And there are other guys I like later on, but I think those are supplemental guys to go along with somebody you pick in these first 3 rounds. So Cam Taylor-Britt would probably be my limit. Then we have to decide, is he going to be there? Would we make the move now?
All right, Bruce, where are you at on this?
I don't like the cornerbacks who are available for me at this second pick. I think that you can do better. I think you can get better players than Cam Taylor-Britt, Alontae Taylor, Goodrich. I think you can get better players at different positions here. Are you ready for me to break the internet?
Uh-oh.
Are you ready?
Are you going to do what I think you're going to do, Bruce?
Let's take a running back. So here is the reason why I'm going to say let's take a running back. So number one, I think that this is the same argument I made during the Jonathan Taylor, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, J.K. Dobbins year, which is you have this group of running backs where I really like 3 of them, right? And then everyone after that, it's kind of you're throwing darts, right? But there's a chance that all 3 of these top players, Isaiah Spiller is RB1 for me, has an opportunity to be really, really, really good. However, I'm going to meet in the middle here. Isaiah Spiller is RB1 for me. Breece Hall is everybody's apple of their eye because of the speed factor, right? I say we meet in the middle and we take Kenneth Walker. The reason I say we take Kenneth Walker is because imagine, if you will, if Devin Singletary was more explosive and how many more yards we would have gotten last year and how much that would have helped out with the too high looks that the Buffalo Bills have been getting. Devin Singletary is not going to convince other teams to stop playing too high. I think one of the things that the Kansas City Chiefs saw on offense last year when they started getting essentially nothing but too high is that Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who actually shares a fair amount of physical traits with Devin Singletary. Neither one of them is speed people. They're based on vision and contact balance, and that's all wonderful, okay? But it doesn't scare you enough to devote somebody to. And you have to be able to smack off 6 to 7 yards clip to be able to get people out of that cover 2 shell. I don't think Devin Singletary, unless the blocking is absolutely perfect, is somebody who can make that happen on a consistent basis. However, Kenneth Walker is somebody who can make it happen against heavy boxes. Because let's be honest, what else was Michigan State doing, guys? What else was Michigan State doing?
That's all they could do.
They were running with Kenneth Walker. Everybody in the entire stadium knew what was happening. Imagine what Walker can do against light boxes in the NFL. Because you're never going to get super heavy boxes. I will settle at this point for medium boxes. And that's what you can get if you can convince teams to not sit in cover 2 all day long. And if you have a 4-3 running back, I understand his position in the pass game is a question. I get that. But you signed Duke Johnson for that. You pursued J.D. McKissick for exactly that reason. But the role that I'm envisioning for Kenneth Walker is not someone who's going to catch a swing pass out of the backfield and take it for 70 yards. I'm not saying he can't. I'm saying that's not the function of this running back pick. The function of this running back pick is to help get Josh Allen into more favorable looks. And the way you do that is by convincing defenses that it's at least somewhat of a threat. So that is my argument for potentially taking
You just
Kenneth
broke
Walker.
the internet.
I know,
You
right?
broke the internet with that one.
Even
Kenneth
the people
Walker.
in the chat are in the chat are like, okay, where's
Yeah.
the real Bruce? And I'll say this much. I am very much not going to pick a running back in the first round, and I would justify it in a million different ways. If the Bills pick a running back here, I'm okay with it, and I hope it works out well. My point is there's still other guys at this pick that I would probably value more than any of these three, or the fact that I agree with Bruce that those three guys are all good guys that could be potentially taken here. That gives you some flexibility to say, well, we'll see what happens over the next few picks. If we really want one of them, we could trade back up and try and grab one of them as well. But I'm okay with it. Bruce made a very avid point here. And again, if it happens on draft day, I'm not going to complain if the Bills take a running back in the second round.
So Kenneth Walker is my RB1 as a Michigan guy. He's a Michigan State guy, but he really, his vision, I love Kenneth Walker's vision, his ability to set up blockers. He could break tackles, and he's got a really good story behind him, man, where, you know, he loves the game of football. Like, this guy, he's solid, man. He is a solid guy. So let's go with Kenneth Walker as the pick here. I'm happy because y'all know I love my running backs. I get what I want, and I'm not even making the picks. I'm not even making the picks. So I agree. Getting these guys out of these too high looks is only going to make Josh Allen better. We took Olave in the first round, right? It's going to single these guys up on the outside. You got OJ Howard. You got Dawson Knox in the seam. Whatever you want to do, this offense would be loaded. So we just took two premier offensive guys, round 1 and round 2. Guys, we still do not have a cornerback. So what are we going to do here? We are pick 89. Let's check this board out. Bruce, I'm going to let you take the floor first here. Pick 89. Where do you want us to look at for depth-wise?
Well, first off, I really like Cole Strange here. Every time I look at this particular scenario, I look at Cole Strange, and I always feel pretty good about someone who has that level athletic profile. I think he compares very favorably to someone that we're very familiar with, and that's Mitch Morse. Someone who's a really good athlete, tall, a little bit thinner, in the low 200s, low 300s. I think it matters. I think it matters that you have someone on the roster who is very similar to someone you already have. And I think that if you get someone who's a swing interior offensive lineman who can potentially develop, you don't necessarily know what you're going to get from both your guards moving forward. Now, Bates is under contract. That's a thing. But I hate to break it to you, we have a guy under contract right now for 1 year who is in his mid-30s on the other side. So it's not like you're not going to be immediately looking at interior offensive line the second the season's over. So for me, I look at Cole Strange. Now, show me the corners who are here, if you wouldn't mind.
That's what I was going to ask for as well.
Now, Cam Taylor Britt is here. Martin Emerson is here. I like both of them in this spot. I think I like Martin Emerson a lot. I think that one of the people I really respect referred to Martin Emerson. They go, I just wish he wasn't so clunky. That was the word they used, clunky, right? But if you look at him just on physical traits, you go, okay, he's long, he's fast, he tackles, he's aggressive, he's experienced, he played in the SEC. You're like, show me the flaws. Like, what's going on? Why isn't Emerson being talked about as a high pick? And the answer is he's clunky. Well, guess what? The Bills have some of the best defensive back coaching in football. And if I have somebody I want to take who I can kind of shake away from the clunkiness, then I'm going to take someone like Martin Emerson. Now, I will say this. I think there's an opportunity for a double dip here. I think there's an opportunity to get a double dip. I really do. So for me, if you talk me into Cam Taylor Britt, I'm going to be looking to see if Emerson's around the next time. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, so I love my tall corners. I like Martin Emerson's game as well. He's just not refined in terms of technique, right? He's a little, he doesn't have the most fluid hips, but he can run. He can turn and go, but he definitely needs some more work on his hips. But Anthony, you guys, are we going corner
I mean,
here? Or
I would-
are we going Cole Strange?
I feel less comfortable if we do not go corner by the third round. I'll say that much. So at this point, I'm taking the corner that I would want, which would be Cam Taylor-Britt in this position. But exactly what Bruce said, I'm not only taking Cam Taylor-Britt. Round 6, round 7, I'm probably looking at another cornerback who can come in and compete and be a obviously more built for the future type guy, but also come in and compete, and you like what you can get out of him. But if we go to the big board again, just to see other positions that we maybe necessarily haven't discussed, another need for the Bills is tight end, and we see at the top of this group 3 tight ends. I think the one that I like of these guys is Ruckert from Ohio State. Tall pass catching guy, 12 personnel guy, right? Like that's what he would be with the Bills, with obviously tight end 1 being taken, and a guy you can build for in the future when, coming into next year, we'll only still have, actually both tight ends will be free agents. So we don't know what we'll have at the tight end position. Something to consider there. And later round tight ends, I'm not as high on maybe as some people. So that would be something to consider. But I think I'm 100% sold on going Cam Taylor-Britt in this position because I want a cornerback before round 3.
Now, we did see the Bills last year go defensive end round 1, 2, right? They went offensive line 3, 4. So could round 4, could we get another cornerback? Because I think we do need a cornerback. I think we need another cornerback. We might not have Trey White for 6 weeks. He might go on the PUP list. So, I mean, McDermott has done it before, taking second and third round cornerbacks when he was with the Panthers. Could we see another double dip at cornerback? Let's see. So we're going to go Cam Taylor-Britt here, Eric. Let's take him with pick 89. Those of you guys who are in the chat, who should we take in the 4th round? So the board is shaping up. We still got a ways to go.
Bruce, I'm not sure if you're familiar with my guy, Romeo Dubes, but he's a name that I have to mention every time we're doing the draft. He's officially my 2022 draft crush. His name might have something to do with that, but I'm also a fan of his skill set after I looked into him. Not sure how deep you've scouted on the wide receiver position, but he's a guy I really like, and I've picked in a couple of my mocks, and this is usually right around where I start to look for him. And I also believe you could make the argument that Bills could double dip at wide receiver if the situation fits, right? So let's see. We're already at our pick here.
All right, so we got our running back, we got our wide receiver, we got a cornerback, a starting corner, I believe. What is our need right now? So based on the board, the punt god is available at pick 130. I don't want to take a punter here, although I do think we need a punter. But you guys take the floor. What you looking at? What you want?
We haven't discussed. Yeah, go ahead.
If you hadn't taken a running back here, this would be where I would be shooting from, right here. Tyler Batty, right there. Damian Pierce, right there. Zamir White, right there. Rashad White, who I really like, is right there. I don't think that any of these people profiles as easily as being a 3-down starting running back. But if you found a corner, for example, if there were a corner I really would have liked at 57, this would have been where I circled back for a running back. I would have been like, okay, you know what? I got my corner. I really liked it 57. Let's circle back and try and find myself a running back here. Yes. However, that's not the case. Eric, if you would mind showing me the corners here. Okay,
Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bryant's here, and I like
Isaac
Kobe
Taylor
Bryant.
Stewart.
Those
are my guys.
Monteric Brown is here. Isaac Taylor Stewart's here. I could double dip on corner here with any of those 3 guys and be very happy. So I'm cool with anything like that. I also think, Eric, if you wouldn't mind showing me interior offensive line.
I was going to say that's one position we haven't discussed really yet since that first round where we had a guy we could have taken, but now it's becoming more of okay, this is another position at depth we need to consider.
This could be a Donovan West move for me as well. I could absolutely take a Donovan West here. I think there's an opportunity to get starting caliber interior offensive linemen in the middle rounds. I think it's been proven over and over and over again. Right. Very similar athletic profile from a height weight standpoint to Cole Strange. He's taller, he's a little bit lighter. I think that when you look at the Bills and you think, okay, what kind of running scheme are you going to see from the Buffalo Bills this year? Every year, it feels like they open with a little bit more of a zone run scheme until eventually, after beating their heads against the wall against it for 8 to 10 weeks, they go, fine, screw it. We'll go back to man and gap schemes. And I think part of that is limited by the running back, but we already took care of that with Kenneth Walker, who can actually threaten the outsides of a defense and the edges, which Donovan Singletary cannot. But the other part of it is you had linemen who weren't really that necessarily athletic. Well, Donovan's athletic enough to be able to do that. So I think that zone blocking is something, if you're looking at trying to get somebody to groom behind your current right guard, I think there's an opportunity to make this happen if you wanted to go into your offensive line.
Yeah, and more on the interior offensive lineman. I think there's 4 guys here that are viable options here in the 4th round. So you got Donovan West, like you mentioned. I think Luke Fortner is a sleeper guy that I think that is very multiple. He's a big man. I think he can move a little bit. Cam Jurgens, mean as hell. Nebraska, I think he's solid. And then Thayer Mumford. Thayer Mumford was a guy that a lot of people had high on their board. He's kind of slipped down. I think one of the concerns about him is his toughness. Sometimes he doesn't always rise to the occasion. But again, we have Aaron Kromer, one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. So I think, this is a place where you want to take one of those high upside guys, like you guys are mentioning, and grooming him. Because look, Roger Saffold is probably a 1-year fixture, right? So we need another guy in the wings to learn from these, from Aaron Kromer and Roger Saffold. Might have to take the helm. So
here's my counter to what Bruce. If Bruce said to me, okay, I want to take Donovan West here, I would be fine with that. I'm okay with it. But my response would be, where do we value Donovan West? How much higher than a Thayer Mumford or a Cade Mays, who are the other 2 names that are later in this board that maybe we could potentially get in the next round versus those other positions we're looking at. So I don't know, Bruce, if you want to make the case that Donovan West is worth taking here more than if we waited another round for a Mumford or a Mays, or if there's somebody else on the list later on that you like.
I am not a Mumford guy. And mind you, he's an Ohio State guy. And I'm an Ohio State guy. I am not a Mumford guy. I don't know what you do with Mumford. I look at Mumford and go, I still don't know what you do with him. I really don't. I think that I don't see an easy projection the way that a lot of people do for Mumford to the next level. So for me, the drop off after Jurgens and Mays is notable. There are not a lot of late day 3 IOLs I really like. There are a couple of developmental prospects at tackle I really like. But if I'm looking at swinging on traits, which is what I like to do on day 3, I want to swing on traits, right? There's just not a lot of them at IOL I really like. So just like there being a drop-off at running back, a drop-off at cornerback, I think there's an opportunity here for a drop-off at interior offensive line. And if you're going to pull the trigger, you might want to pull it, or you just might want to cross your fingers and hope that one of the guys we like is still around.
Screw it. Let's go cornerback, man. Kobe Bryant is still on the board. We talk a lot about Sauce Gardner here. I think Kobe Bryant, just think about it. Teams weren't throwing at Sauce Gardner, and Kobe Bryant was still holding the other side of the field down, man. This guy can ball. He just didn't get a lot of the hype.
Levi Wallace effect,
he didn't get a lot of the hype. Well, no, he's better than Levi Wallace.
No, that's what I'm saying. Same thing as the Bills.
He didn't get a lot of the hype because you got Sauce Gardner on the side, right? So give me Kobe. Yeah, I want Kobe. Can I come in here and get a pick?
Oh,
here?
I thought you were letting Bruce and I.
He's a
meddling owner. Yeah. Sterling is a meddling owner. He just kicked down the door to the draft room and said, "No, I want Kobe Bryant because he's got a cool name, and I want to use Mumba mentality to sell a lot of merchandise."
Mumba. So the other argument I would make here at corner is I really like a guy like Isaac Taylor-Stewart for the Buffalo Bills and for our defense, meaning Sean McDermott. The guys, they love cornerbacks. They love guys with traits, with skills that they can develop to turn into the best versions of themselves. And this guy has that written all over him. Like, please bring me in, teach me how to be a better player, and get me to be my best potential. So this is a guy I would want in the later rounds, and we're certainly not going to go 3 cornerbacks in the same draft. That would be my only argument for going
Bruce said,
interior, all cornerback, interior offensive line here over cornerback. That would be my only other argument.
Kobe Bryant's one. I think, that he's the best player available right now.
Go ahead.
Let's go Kobe. I want my Kobe. And give him number 8. Give him number 8, baby.
I give him number 8. Well, number 7's taken now, apparently, right? What's his name? Changed his number.
Oh yeah, Taron Johnson's officially number 7 now, right? So, all right, guys. So we are round number 5. The Giants are on the call. Like, no, if you don't give us pick 5 or 7, I don't want to hear from you, New York. New Jersey, not New York, New Jersey. All right, so we are the 5th round here. We're moving right along. So we actually, so far, we got a pretty good haul. So we got 2 cornerbacks that have starting potential.
Oh, I like that.
We got Kenneth Walker and Chris Olave. I mean, this is a home run draft so far. So Bruce, Anthony, you guys are on the clock with the 5th pick, 5th round pick. Here we go. So now this is where the punt god, to me, sounds. I can deal. I can this reasonable. Yeah. But you guys, I'm not going to be the meddling owner. I got what I want. I'm going to let you guys do what you're going to do.
Honestly, I have a feeling that there's going to be a, crazy Raiders situation. Somebody's going to pick Arazia way earlier than this in my mind than the 5th round. I think this is a more reasonable place to take him, which means some team that has the ability to just say, screw it, we're going to go for a punter this early is probably going to take him. But obviously, he's the name that stands out on the big board here to me. We have to take a look at interior offensive line again, because that's where we wanted to go in the last round and didn't. And now we have that drop off where, Cade Mays is still the guy that and Thayer Mumford, although we know Bruce said he's not a Mumford guy. And if anybody knows Ohio State, I trust him. So I'm probably looking more at Cade Mays in this situation from interior offensive line. Bruce, I don't know if there's a guy.
Cam Jurgens, man.
Jurgens.
You would go Jurgens?
We got to talk about Jurgens. I mean, this is a really, 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 really good athlete. And I think that there's still room for him. A lot of people were worried because he's just shy of 300 pounds, but there's room on that frame. With him being as tall and as long as he is, this is a guy with almost 34-inch arms. I mean, he's tall and long. He's got room to put on 10 pounds, 15 pounds, and still look really good. He also ran a 4.9 in the 40. This is a guy who can scoot, ladies and gentlemen. So he's tall, he's long. I think that he fits in the zone scheme.
This is Spencer Brown 2.0, but a guard.
Skills.
That's what this is.
Yeah, for me, you're going to be hard-pressed to get me off of interior offensive line. I could be talked into Cade Mays for sure, but for me, it's going to be Jurgens.
So over the punter, I guess, would be the other position we've considered here. Let's take a look at wide receiver just for fun. I want to know, there's my guy, Romeo Dubes, still on the board. Probably going to go shortly after this. But I would consider him here only because I've done the homework and I know this is a guy I love. And I know Sterling's going to say, but Justin Ross is right there. No, I want Romeo. I don't want Justin Ross. But yes, I think that I would probably still, because we already drafted a wide receiver, look more at interior offensive linemen than I would at wide receiver here, unfortunately for my guy, Romeo.
All right, so what's the pick? What's the pick, fellas?
I think we're settling on Cam Jurgens.
All right, Cam Jurgens, let's pull the trigger. All right, so we know the punt god's gone. Somebody done swiped him
probably just
already.
Got picked.
Yeah, he's probably gone. So but we're coming right back up. So let's see. He's still there.
Yeah, that's nuts.
If he's there, you have to pull the trigger. Oh my God. You get Cam Jurgens and the punt guy.
Yeah, 6th round?
In the 6th round? Bruce, come on, guys.
My guy Romeo is on the big board, too. Oh, killing me. I would, yeah.
I mean, this is the easiest pick of all time. We all know that he's not going to be here in the 6th, right? So some of this stuff, it's just like, okay, well, we're going to do it because we'd be idiots if we didn't do it.
Right.
But we all know it's not going to happen. I think there's a very reasonable chance someone takes. This is my hot take for the day. You ready? Here's my hot take. As if you thought me advocating for a running back at 57 wasn't a hot enough take.
Wait, you're going to break the internet one more time?
My hot take is somebody's going to take Matt Araiza on day 2.
Oh, my God. Don't know. Third round? Hell no. Oh, my God. That'd be crazy.
Wow.
That'd be crazy.
So Angle was that day 2 pick.
That being said, how crazy would it be? So if he's not on the board here, what name are you looking at? Now, obviously, we went interior offensive line in the last round. Cade Mays is still on the board here. Yes, give me Romeo, right? Like you would go Romeo.
I'm getting Romeo Dubes here. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and I don't know if TDN tends to have him lower than I've seen him go as high as the 3rd round in some mock drafts, and then still be available early in the 6th round in some others. But he's obviously a guy I'm high on. We're gonna pick the punter, obviously, because he's on the board, even though we don't think he's there. But I like the idea of if we didn't go interior offensive line, there's still a guy here that I would take. And it would give us the luxury now of picking another wide receiver or even cornerback this late with Isaac Taylor-Stewart still on the board if we had not already double dipped at cornerback. So I'm really liking the way this board is falling for the Buffalo Bills right now.
All right, punt god it is. Let's do it. All right, man. This draft is this is a home run draft, man.
Yeah.
So we're coming back up, okay, at pick number 203. All right. So, wow. I think we go wide receiver here, guys. I think we go high upside, wide receiver. Give me a niche guy. What do we have at wide receiver? Let's check it out.
What team got my guy Romeo? Let's see all picks for a second. I'm just curious. He must have won in the last few picks. So, oh, there he is.
Jacksonville.
Okay. Jacksonville, where they're loaded with wide receivers now, apparently.
But Justin Ross is gone too. All right, whatever. What do you guys want to do here? Let's look at all. Let's see who's left on the board.
No Isaac Taylor-Stewart anymore either.
Reggie
if
Robeson's
you really
not bad.
wanted to get tight ends to put in place,
Charlie Kohler.
for when OJ Howard's gone, Charlie Kohler's right there.
Yeah,
I think I like that idea here too.
I like Charlie Kohler right here. I also can absolutely 100% be talking to Tyquan Thornton right here. Now, I know that you missed out on your guy Romeo Dubes, but can I talk you into another tight-hipped, high hip elevation kind of vertical outside receiver who's got the wheels to be able to play a vertical role? Chris Olave's got the speed to be able to do that, but in the event that you were trying to hedge yourself against the idea that maybe Marquez Stevenson doesn't become that guy, then can I talk you into Tyquan Thornton for something like this? I think he is a little bit of a diet Romeo Dubes.
There you
if
go.
I can be so bold. So
Okay,
he's
Bruce,
like Romeo
hold
Dubes,
on.
only half the calories. So
Bruce.
for me, it's Thornton, it's Kohler.
Okay, so Tyquan Thornton. You know who my player count for him is?
Hold on. Let me think.
Interesting.
I don't know. Go. I don't want to pause.
Jacoby Jones.
That's good. I like that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I like that. So I could be talked into either one of those players at this stage in the draft. If you want to try and get somebody who is, not necessarily going to contribute right now, but might be pressed into service sooner rather than later, and you want to swing on traits. So for me, it's Kohler, it's Thornton. I probably lean a little bit Kohler right here because you have a tight end, an OJ Howard on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
My question is, can Tyquan Thornton return kicks?
Not that I know of.
Because with that speed, I'd be willing to say, dude, just put him out there. Let him get the ball and run. I mean, you did it. Go ahead.
You can't ignore that we don't have a tight end too after this year, right? In the best case scenario, you franchise tag, theoretically, obviously your tight end 1 and then your tight end 2 walks. I would want to have another guy on the roster that, you can have for a year, let him watch how things go, bring him up, make him the TE2 especially if they're running more 12 personnel. I would
Charlie Kohler is the smart decision.
So let's do the smart decision.
Yeah. Then that's
I like doing smart things.
I don't want to make the dumb decision.
All right, Charlie Kohler it is.
And there you have it. Right?
And there you have it. That's it, right? I think
so.
That's
This is
all our
quite
picks.
the haul. This might be my favorite mock draft that we have done on the show yet. To be honest.
We got one more pick.
We do have one more pick, huh? 7.
If Tyquan Thornton is there, which he probably isn't,
I'll lose my mind.
Okay, so there's a guy that I have a draft crush on, Bruce, and I don't know if you've checked him out, but he just got taken. Damn it!
Who?
My guy from USC, Palo Alto. I talked about him. That's my guy right there, dude. 6'4" safety, can play in a box you probably can convert him to linebacker, man. I love him, man. He's not Troy Polamalu, but when you watch him he's just ferocious, man. I love his game. He's gone, isn't he?
You know, we didn't take a linebacker.
Oh yeah. He went to the Raiders, obviously. All right, so
I would say linebacker is another position where if there's somebody that we're taking a look at here, now we're talking real deep, real late here.
Okay, so I could be talked into Eric Ezukanma here from USC. If you wanted to get another receiver, a completely different type of player. This is someone who'd be able to replicate a little bit of that bigger slot player. If you thought that maybe there was a chance Isaiah Hodgins did not turn into the big slot specialist that maybe you think he could be, I think there's an opportunity for Eric Ezukanma to be able to be that guy. But as mentioned, we haven't taken a linebacker. The problem is I don't really like a lot of the linebackers who are here super duper late. So Eric, if you wouldn't mind showing me the linebackers, please. Oh goodness. Yes, I don't love a lot of these linebackers, do I? Okay, change
Nate
of plan.
Lammon's my guy.
Say what now?
Nate Lammon as a special teams guy. You know, you want to move on from Tyler Matakavich at some point, get younger. I think Nate Lammon's a decent linebacker, but yeah, there's not much. The cupboard is empty here.
Jeez, even a guy. Yeah, I was trying to look at my linebacker list to see how deep I went, but I don't even have.
I think you take the highest upside guy here. Whoever you believe has the highest upside
of the whole board, right?
Of the whole board.
So let's go back to the overall.
It's probably Gemmel, right? Like the highest upside guy here is probably Jeremiah Gemmel.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
probably.
He's small, but he runs, and he's fun to watch. I think that there's a chance he's a see ball, get ball kind of guy. But
Eric's guiding us to quarterback here. Is that what that subtle hints here of what who Eric's looking at this slate?
I do not want Derek King.
Sign him in free agency at this point as an undrafted.
All right, Bruce, who you want here?
Give me Jeremiah Gemmel.
All right.
Where is he?
Where is he on this board?
He's a linebacker.
He's a linebacker.
Yeah, go back to. You can go. There you go.
There he is, North Carolina guy. All right, let's do it. Jeremiah Gemmel it is at pick 231. And that's it. That's it. So look at this. Look at this, man. Chris Olave in round 1. You got Kenneth Walker in the 2nd round. We double dipped on corner rounds 3 and 4. Cam Taylor-Britt comes to the Bills. My man Kobe Bryant, give him the number 8, right? And then you got a nasty corn freaking, I'm going to put 15 bells of hail on my shoulders guy and Cam Jurgens. Go back to the user picks. And we got the punt god.
Yeah.
Charlie Kohler. Jeremiah Gemmel for special teams. I think, guys, this is quite the haul.
Yeah, I mean, this is still one of my favorite mock drafts that I've done or we've done yet. I think, again, the two things that I'm iffy on here, one is that I don't think Olave is going to be there at 25. I really don't. I know that we picked him a number of times to the Bills here. I think some other team's going to pick him ahead of us. So that leaves, what happens in that first round open. And I probably would say the same thing about the punter in, as late as we picked him. That's not going to happen in reality during the draft either. But if you can opt to not pick back-to-back corners and you put a cornerback where we have the punter now, that leaves another spot open for you to take another position of value. So I really like how the board fell in this draft more than anything. The options that were there for us were pretty good, I'd say, overall.
Bruce?
I don't think a lot of these players are going to be here. I don't think Kohler's going to be there at 203. I don't think Arraez is going to be there at 185. I don't think Gemmel's going to be there at 231. I don't think German's going to be there at 168. I don't think Cam Taylor-Britt's going to be there at 89. I don't think Olave is going to be at 25. Out of all the picks we had here, the only one I can actually see potentially happening
is the running back.
Kenneth Walker at 57. I don't think anything else is actually going to work this way. We're going to look back at this draft after the actual draft happens and be like, wow, that would have been nice.
Yeah, right. We got 4 before rounding up, guys.
Let me take a screenshot of this because, Bruce, we're going to have a conversation after the draft concludes about our little draft class here, see where these guys actually went. But just so you guys know, as we wrap up the show here, Bruce, why don't you tell the fans and listeners where they can find you?
Well, you can find me here. That's where you can find me. I'm right here. I didn't even leave. No, if for some reason you listened to this and you thought, gosh, that guy, I can't get more, need to get more of that guy, which first off, I question your general sanity. But if you would like to get more of what you have experienced you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Bruce Exclusive Fair Warning. The Instagram is essentially just food and pictures of dogs. If you want to listen to my show, you can listen to the show, The Bruce Exclusive, which is on the Buffalo Rumblings podcast feed, drops every Thursday morning. In addition, I do a live show on Friday evenings with Nate Geary from WGR 550 on the Buffalo Rumblings YouTube channel called Food for Thought, where we very snarkily say that we combine two of your three favorite F words, food and football. So that's kind of a fun little way to kick off your shoes after a long week and kick it with us. So I appreciate you guys having me.
No, the third Bruce, F, of course, is funfetti, by the way, if you're asking.
Absolutely.
No. But, Bruce, you have not had me as a guest on Food for Thought. And, you know, like, my food takes are hot out, fresh off the press,
They
baby.
are.
I'm from the South, so, you know, I know good food. But whatever, that's neither here nor there. But, man, we are excited to have you as a guest on the show. Always. You're always
one of the
welcome,
best.
Bruce.
Quality.
We really
Thank
do
you for
appreciate
coming.
it. But you know where to follow. Go ahead, Anthony.
Always the best dressed guy in the room too. I mean, somebody's got to outdo me, right?
He's a dapper man over there. He's a dapper man. But we just want to say thank you guys for supporting the Hoof Podcast on the Cover One Network. And if you haven't already followed, and subscribed to Cover One, make sure you do so. Also do that to the Hoof Podcast. We are just 3 weeks away from the NFL draft. We're getting closer. So you're going to see a couple more mock drafts. We're going to do Making the Case for some other positions in the following week, so stay tuned for that. But just keep it locked and loaded right here on the Hoof Podcast. You guys have a fantastic week, and we out of here.
Go Bills.